lice. And that is what it is used for.
OK, now, Nanette, your turn.
Nice.
Well, Roaney was a rather finely woven type of linen cloth that was used for making very rich draperies, rather beautiful draperies, or rather grand types of flags or pennants. And the word itself is an anglicised version of the French town of Rouen, which is where this rather beautiful cloth was originally woven, and that's how it derived its name.
Oh, right enough. Then it's a sort of tar that you can use. It's a box of herrings, or it's a box for herrings, and it's this sort of linen cloth. Frank, yours choice.
We're having a little discussion here.
Yeah?
There's a slight divergence of opinion.
About what?
So just totaled. Well, about the programme, of course. I'm terribly upset because I haven't got any veins in the back of my hand to start with, which is worrying.
Yeah.
And herring boxes, where you'd sing, Ronies without topses, sandals were for Clementine. Didn't you?
You might.
It doesn't sound right, does it?
No, it doesn't.
You don't, in this programme, lad, you don't put things on sheep's backs. This programme specialises in diseases of sheep, not in rubbing things into sheep, so that's out. So we think, no, we in the monarchical way, I alone think that it's Nanette's rubbish.
She said that it was linen cloth.
Yes, the crug about the...
yes, that stuff. It
flag
came from
material.
Rouen, she said. True or bluff? No. Nothing there. We have to know the true definition now. Who's got it? Here it comes. It's there. I know it's there. So,
Don't accept it.
That's exactly what it is. The tar that for once you rub into the sheep, but not in Norfolk, Frank. Not in Norfolk.
I still say it's cheating.
It's not.
Rub things into sheep on this programme.
It is not, I quite agree with you, true to the spirit of the game. 2-0, however. Ricker's the next word, and Derek Jacobi.
A ricker is a spar. Not the sort of spar you swim in or take the waters of, but a spar in the sense of a pole of wood, cut from a young or immature tree. And it's particularly a spar or a pole applied to nautical uses. For instance, the shaft of a harpoon would be a ricker, or the pole of a boat hook would be a ricker, or a mizzenmast would be a ricker, but it has to be cut from a young, immature tree.
Ah, right enough. Then, Prunella, your turn.
Ricker is a type of Canadian skate used by some Canadians for skating across some Canadian frozen-up lakes. And the distinguishing feature of this skate is that it has the front of it turns up like a growing banana, and this has the effect of making the skater go faster than on a flat skate.
Skating on
Well, it would. It would, of course it would. Now we hear from Frank Muir.
Ricker is an ostler's word. Any ostler would use the word ricker. You'd see the ostler, or you'd see the chap on a cart. He'd be saying, "Whoa, whoa, come back here, come back, Salvatella, come on." I'm getting over it. He'd be hauling on the ropes until the Salvatellas were standing out, and the horses behind in front of him. Come back here. Because a ricker is a very headstrong, near unmanageable horse.
There you are. Almost 2 to the prize of 1 there. Well done, Frank. It's a kind of a skate, it's a sort of a pole, and it's a kind of a headstrong horse. Michael Culver's
You'll be out on
choice.
your own, of course.
Yes, I know.
Don't blame us if you're wrong.
I know I'm out on my own.
It would be my advice to you, perhaps can't stay forever.
Well, starting with the spar and Derek, I can't see any point in making anything to do with a boat out of immature wood because it would warp and bend. I'm being very scientific now, and I'm going to rule that right out. I can't believe that. And it's too like rigor, and I think there are meant to be kind of euphonious sounds like that. The skate tempts me quite a lot.
but so does the horse.
You're looking at Scrooge?
Skate. I don't know. I think it was the banana that put me off the skate. I'm going to go for the horse. Salvatellas and all.
Well, now, Frank Muir made a very amusing definition of that. Was it true, though, Frank, or was it a bluff?
Let me reveal it.
It's a bluff.
All that acting did not go for naught. It wasn't that. Who gave the true definition? Got it there somewhere.
Oh,
yes. It was a nautical pole. I should have thought Patrick, late Admiral of the Irish Navy, would have got that all night.
That's absolutely right. You don't use new wood.
You do from now on, you know. You do, honestly you do. Because that's what it means.
Don't argue.
Let's have
Look
another.
at back.
Pantene or pantine is the next one. Michael Culver to define it.
A pantine is a form. Well, it's a mythical stone, really. In the old days, it was stones that had the property of attracting gold, rather like a magnet attracts iron. The ancients thought that a pantine would attract gold, and I say they're mythical because, in fact, none were ever found. There is no record of a pantine anywhere. But if there was such a thing, it was meant to attract gold. That is a pantine.
OK, well, he says that. Now, Nanette.
Now, if you were a child in the 18th century...
I was.
You were? Then you'll know this quite well, Frank. You may well rush to the nursery and rush to your toy cupboard or toy box and take out a Pantene, because it was a very fashionable toy of that time. It was a pasteboard puppet, in a way. It was joined together at all the joints, the head and the arms and the legs, and pulled by strings, and it was really a most desirable toy that gave people a great deal of amusement and fun.
Mm.
Right. Now it's Patrick's go.
Pantine derives from the Latin word pantinus, which means just a thing for keeping bread in. So that pantine can be used as an adjective. This is going to amaze you. If you've got a bread bin in your house with bread in it or outside it, you're all right? You can still refer to it as a pantine, I beg your pardon, as a pantine container, which that is what it is, up it. Not on it, in it. I mean.
So a pantine container would be something which contained a pantine.
No, it's of bread.
Well, any road up.
Well, it is a bread holder, I think he was telling us.
With a hand.
Fabulous stone and a puppet. Derek, your turn to choose.
Oh, well, it could be any of them. I didn't believe Michael at all. I don't think he believed himself when he was saying it. So I think I'll forget Michael for the moment. No reflection on you, Michael.
No, none.
You see, Nanette, I think of pantaloon. That makes me think of puppets, toys. Yes, I like the sound of that. The bread bin, you can forget. No, not at all. Don't think so. So, you did it beautifully. You did it absolutely beautifully.
Do you think so?
But yes, I thought. But I'm going to go for Nanette and the puppet.
Nanette, who did say that it was a puppet, 18th century puppet, true or bluff?
Oh!
Quite right. Pantine or Pantene is an 18th century puppet. Have another word. Salufa is the next one. And Prunella, your turn.
Well, the position of the salufa on the manorial dining room table would tell you who was the gentry and who were his serfs, varlets, retainers, etc., because it was a receptacle holding the salt, and the lord of the manor would sit above the salufa, and his lot would all sit above the salufa, and the serfs and the retainers and all the others would sit, as we know it, below the salt.
Well, that's...
Yep. Stranger things have happened, Frank.
Had you been born in Victorian times, you would have been very familiar with Salufa, because they used a lot of it. They used a lot. lots and lots and lots of it. It was a sort of pungent disinfectant. And, for instance, they'd make a solution of it and syringe children when they had earache. And buckets and buckets and buckets, Paddy, were poured into stagnant reaches of the Manchester Ship Canal. Anything which was needed really sort of cleansing and made more salubrious, salacious stuff. Can't get it now, because all gone, all gone, all gone.
Is that all?
Well, let's put it this way, it's enough.
Salufa is a lovely word. It's an American word. And it is a greeting in writing to the reader of a first edition of an American newspaper or magazine. Now, you remember the very famous American magazine called Schreibner's magazine? Well, when this was first published in 1874, it contained, in this very first copy, a salufa of 2,000 words, written by a man called Samuel L. Clemens, who later became very famous as Mark Twain. It's a written greeting.
Dear.
OK, well, it's a Victorian kind of disinfectant that there was a lot of, and it's a sort of greeting from the publisher of a newspaper on the first day, and it's a salt cellar, or it was. Nanette.
Well, Frank, all those people, all those addicts in the Victorian times that were addicted to this salufa, if it was that good, I mean, I can't believe that it wouldn't have somehow managed to continue and be in use today.
Good thinking.
Could it? I don't know. Now, I've heard of the sitting below the salt. That seems to me to be quite feasible. It could be sitting below the salufa. I've only heard of it as sitting below the salt, not the salufa. But that doesn't mean anything. Derek,
you're doing very well at the moment.
That greeting in the magazine, I'm not too sure. I really don't. Derek, I'm going to say that it's you. I think it's the greeting in the.
You said it was the
magazine.
greeting, didn't he, on the first day of the issue of the thing? True or bluff?
Oh, the agony.
Rated bluff. What really is salufa? We cannot survive until we know. Here it comes.
You can rub it on the back of trees.
So that's what it is. I've almost forgotten what he said it was, but it's stuff it's kind of a disinfectant. Did you good. Pour it all over everything. 3-2, and we have Mestek. Nanette Newman.
Well, now, if you happen to have the Queen for dinner, and you had pink junket on the menu, as, you know, well you might, you would do well to colour it with Mestek. Because, you see, I've done quite a few cookery books and things, and I happen to know that Mestek is a version of cochineal. And it is derived from the cochineal insects of really the noblest and truest blood. And it's a very superior kind of cochineal.
Well, I wonder if the Queen had come twice. Patrick, your turn.
Holidaying in Mestek.
Mestek
So,
is a rather arty, crafty kind of adjective. Purloined from the Breton French of the Channel Islands. It means dainty or delicate. Now, was it not Ruskin, writing about the works of Botticelli, who said, just a moment, I must consult my notes here briefly. The cherubim are well defined, their baby faces and their Mestek gestures are quite delightful.
He could do better than that, though, couldn't he, Ruskin? Michael Culver.
Mestek is a Haitian half-caste. In the sense he's a native of Haiti in the Caribbean, who has a French parent of one sex and a Haitian parent of the other, or vice versa. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who was the ex-slave who became the emperor and king of Haiti, was in fact a mestec. And I seem to remember he was also a very tall man. He was over 7 foot tall. But that has absolutely nothing to do with it. But it's a half caste.
It's like a mistake as well.
But it sort of means dainty, kind of adjective. It's a very superior sort of cochineal. And it's a native of Haiti, whose, I think, one parent's French and one is Haitian, I think. Yes. Prunella, your choice.
Now, the one I don't think it is, most definitely, is dainty or delicate, despite all the beautiful quotations. Doesn't sound like a dainty, delicate word to me somehow. So I think I'll count that one out. So it's between the Queen's blancmange and the half-caste. And they both sound equally likely. Oh, dear. I think I'll go for the colour for the blancmange.
The colour for the blancmange for the Queen, of which Nanette spoke. True or Bluff? Right!
Very sneaky shot there. Very sneaky. We can tell about kids.
People go away with the idea that the Queen eats nothing else, I'm sure. She's never been near the stuff. But it does mean that colouring material. Scowls is the next one. Frank Muir.
It's a skulls. There's not a lot of skulls. It's a singular noun. A skulls is into which sailors do not lower an anchor. Because it's an area which nautical people refer to as a poor holding ground. It's a part of the seabed which is so hard that the flukes of an anchor can't get a purchase, and so skid along and the ship floats away. A sculls is a bit of flat bed where you don't anchor.
Silly, isn't it?
Right. Now let's try Derek Jacobi.
Well, Frank is absolutely right when he says it is a skulls. And if you ever have the good fortune to find yourselves in the forest of Dean, and you look very carefully, you may come across the disused and ramshackle workings of an old coal mine. Now, it would be very useful for you to know that the untidy-looking hole that's gaping at you in your pathway is known to the foresters of Dean as a skulls.
Right. Prunella.
Well, actually, it's the scowls. And here we go, folks. It's a disease of poultry. It could happen to chickens, ducks, turkeys. It's a form of eczema which causes the bird, whichever one it happens to attack, to be so busy scratching, itching, pecking, whatever else, that it completely forgets to lay any eggs.
Okay, so it's a hard seabed where you can't get the anchor in, and it's the remains of an old coal mine in the Forest of Dean, and another favourite of the programme, it's the disease of poultry. Patrick's choice.
I know that hens get down behind, which is a well-known hen's disease. It looks very sore.
Down behind what?
And it plays old Harry with the hen laying eggs. But hens with eczema, it's too nauseating. Even if it's right, I wouldn't like it. Derek blithering about untidy holes in the Forest of Dean. What's a tidy hole as opposed to an untidy hole? And it's absolute nonsense, furthermore, to say that an unanchoring a bit at the bottom of the sea is called a sculls because pathetic. You can drop a hook anywhere.
Yes.
Into rock. I think I'll just go on like this.
You're such a fool at saying.
Until some inspiration comes very shortly, within the next quarter of an hour, probably. So I rather think then they think it's a difficult anchoring spot.
The difficult anchoring spot. Well, the Admiral spoke there. He was choosing the one that Frank said it was. Now Frank will tell him whether it was true or bluff.
Win a few, fail to lose a few.
I must say, I thought that all the seabed was soft. You could get an anchor in anywhere, but who gave the true definition?
Oh, not again.
Yes, indeed.
Untidy hole.
An old, untidy coal mine in the Forest of Dean, or one that once was. Wherrit is our last word, and Patrick has nice time to define it.
As you might imagine, this is a word used by, well, you could possibly call them peasants or yokels. Us. Just a moment, please. I'm rather busy. A yokel or a peasant, talking to another yokel or peasant, might well be trying to wherrit him, i.e. to irritate him, to drive him mad with rage, so the recipient of the wherriting is going to pick up a spade and let lash. It just means to irritate. Now, you might suppose that I'm trying to wherrit you lot, but I'm not, because that's what it is.
Right, now, Michael, fairly speedily, if you will.
Wherrit is a blacksmith's cudgel, and it's a flat-sided piece of wood which tapers to one end, and he just uses it to whack in spokes into wheels.
Good enough, good enough.
Simple.
Nanette, what
Well,
do
if you could imagine that I'm a Leicestershire man in a terrible state of indecision, not knowing which way to turn, this way or that, always on the edge of a dilemma, you would say he's in a right wherrit. And you would be quite right, because it's the description of a Leicestershire man in a state of indecision. A right wherrit.
So, it's to worry or annoy or irritate. It's a blacksmith's cudgel for hitting things with, and it's indecision in Leicestershire. Frank?
We have no indecision this side of the house, Robert. The vibes are coming. The vibes are coming. And it is quite clearly which. No. It's, we don't think it's the peasant irritating. Peasants don't need to irritate each other. They irritate themselves because they need some...
Little speed, Frank. Turn of speed
Well, it's
now.
Patrick, clearly. It must be. No, it isn't, is it? Oh, yes, Patrick. Patrick's way.
The irritating and so forth. Patrick,
That's right.
true or bluff?
Yes, Patrick.
Are you sure it's me?
No.
You really mean it, do you? You're quite right.
Well, it certainly means to get on someone's nerves.
And the other one.
In Leicestershire, yes, won by a fluke. But anyway, 6-2. Frank and his team have won. We'll be playing Burke and Hare to more words from the OED next week. Until then, goodbye from Derek Jacobi, Michael Culver, Prunella G, Nanette Newman, Frank Muir, Patrick Campbell, and goodbye. This is Call My Bluff, where you can see for miles from the top of Patrick Campbell.
Good evening. My first guest has just won the national award for international development or national interdevelopment. Anyway, she's Nanette Newman. And my other guest has come very fresh indeed from the secret camp, Michael Culver.
And the Cavalier of Song, Frank Muir.
Naturally, I brought my winning team back for this show again. And on my right, I have Prunella G. And on my left, Derek Jacobi.
Another word from that inexhaustible store. Willaloo is the word, or perhaps they'll pronounce it Hillaloo, who knows. Patrick and his team will define Willaloo 3 different ways. 2 are bluff, 1 is true, and that's the one that Frank and Co try and pick out. So what of this word Willaloo, Hillaloo, Patrick?
A whillaloo is got a lachrymose variety of a hullabaloo. A hullabaloo is the kind of noise that kind of comes off a cocktail party, which sounds like a riot about to break out. Somebody else said that. It's not really good anyway. But, however, a willaloo is a mob of people crying, "Woe is me, willaloo, woe is me, willaloo, willaloo."
Isn't it?
Was rather glum, wasn't it? Let's see what we can do now with Michael Culver.
Well, you have to watch out for willaloos, because willaloos are in fact a partly poisonous species of North American catfish. They're only partly poisonous because it's only the liver that is poisonous. But if you eat the liver, you can get temporary paralysis of the neck and you can't or swallow. That's a willaloo.
Right. I wonder under what conditions you would eat the liver of such a fish. However, be that as it may, Nanette Newman.
Well, a willaloo is a quite horrific swirling sandstorm in the outbacks of Australia. In fact, on May the 4th, in 1909, the Melbourne Argus reported in Barrow Creek that there had been a willaloo, and I'll tell you what they said. They said it's absolutely devastated, squashed and squandered by a violent willaloo. And that indeed was what happened.
That's the way they write in those latitudes. Sort of sandstorm, kind of loud weeping and wailing, and this semi-poisonous sort of catfish. And Frank has to choose between them.
Yes, team. Livers of catfish. My colleagues and I are very worried about who would eat the liver of catfish. And the whole thing sounds so awful that we don't really want it to be that. So we're going to ignore it was even mentioned. Now, Paddy's... can't read my writing. Oh, yes.
You're probably not
woe
missing a
begone
lot.
whale. In this year of the whale, we should consider that deeply. Whirling sandstorm in Australia, Willaloo. Sounds good, because it sounds so Australian. It sounds like Woolloomooloo, doesn't it, near Sydney? And so therefore, we'll ignore that, and we'll go to Patrick. J'accuse.
What an
Well, he did
extraordinary
say...
way to behave.
He said that it meant a loud weeping and wailing. Something, not quite a cocktail party, but thereabouts. Sure, Bluff.
You don't have to shout as well.
We start with a bullseye. A willaloo is indeed that weeping and wailing noise. Nodulous is the next word, and Frank defines it.
Nodulous. Think of a tea bag. Perforations, bit of string or ribbon on the top, but not filled with tea. Filled with aromatic herbs. Now, I am not in a position to tell you which herbs they are, because I don't know. But the herbs are steeped in the tankard of ale or the stoup of wine. So, the drinker's indigestion is relieved while he is drinking. Nodulous.
Absolute nonsense.
Well, you never know. You never know. It's Derek Jacobi's turn now.
This is a very simple word because it's so onomatopoeic, it gives itself away immediately. Nodulous. It's the name that you give to a person, the sort of person that you meet every day of your life. And it's a very pompous, pretentious word, but if I were to say to you, Malvolio, Lord Foppington, Frank Spencer, and some others do have them, what have they all got in common? They are all noduli. Because nodulus is the rather pompous, pretentious way of calling somebody a fool, a nincompoop, a blockhead, a twit.
It's going a bit far, isn't it?
Prunella G.
When something vibrates or twists back and forth, such as the clapper of an electric bell or the hairspring of a watch, there is actually a tiny moment when it is completely motionless. Now, this moment of immobility is called by professors of physics the nodulus.
Is it?
Yes. Well, it's a sachet of herbs you dunk in the ale or the wine. It's a tiny, tiny pause in physics, and it's a fool or an idiot. Patrick, to choose.
It'd be much easier just to have the usual quick, wild guess rather than flog myself to death. The quick one, we said a twit. No, it's not. It's going too far. It's a noddy. Oh, Lord. Just a minute. God, pause in a pendulum. Oh, it's got to stop sometime. Or does it? I don't think it ever does stop. Has it? Did it? Was it?
Didn't go all the way round, does it?
Yeah. It can't be. People putting tea bags in what they're going to drink. Oh, what a mess. Tea. It must be a tea bag.
Well, not quite a tea bag, but a herb bag.
Yeah, but whatever he said.
Well, it was Frank.
He's too happy.
Oh, not
I won't
Frank.
change my mind.
True
No.
or bluff, is it, do you think?
I'm very happy to be chosen, the way things are.
Not happy to be. Very kind.
Little bag of unspecified herbs that you put in your beer or your wine, or perhaps you used to. One all. Velincha is the next one. Michael Culver.
Velincha is a metal corset. The French invented it to try and combat the English arrows after Cressy. And it's made of metal links, and it defends the torso. And that is a Velincha. It is a form of metal corset.
Righto. And now Nanette tells us what it is.
Well, Velincha is literally an obsessive or compulsive hat doffer. Somebody who's always, oh, yes, good morning, how do you do, nice to see you, compulsively doffing their hat. The word derives from the old French verb velincher, to doff the hat. And really, figuratively speaking, it describes somebody who is rather unattractively servile. Servile, yes.
Yes.
Yes, right. Now Patrick's turn.
A Velincha is a body apparatus which is used by wine tasters. It's a long tube, either of glass or wood. A wine taster, about his wine tasting, approaches a barrel of wine, right?
Oui.
He takes out the bung, he stuffs in his Velincha, sucks it up, slices it around his tongue, and then spits it out, or swallows it. But he's using his Velincha, as it's called in English, ou, en français, Valencière.
Great.
But all the rest would run over his suede shoes, wouldn't it?
That's much more his trouble than yours.
Well, it's... you wanted to say...
No.
Did you? Well,
Just trying to sort it out.
I'm just going to remind you that it's that kind of a, well, sort of pipette, really. Big one put into... suck up the wine in a barrel. It's an obsequious sort of person, and it's an armour corselet. And it's Derek's turn to choose.
First of all, Frank, do you know enough, or Prue, do you know enough French to be able to say whether velincher means to doff in French? I mean, was that true?
I don't know what to doff means in
Does it
English.
mean to doff?
It's an old French verb, yes, which means
really?
to doff.
Norman French.
They've got that problem.
I
Just
don't,
wanted to help.
No, you said it. I don't think it's that. No, I don't think it's that. And that was an attractive meaning to the word, Patrick, the sucking up through the tube and all that. But no, I don't think it's that. In fact, I don't know what it is. So I'm going to say it's Michael's armour.
Well, he did say that it was a sort of corselet that protected you in battle. Now, Michael, true or bluff?
What's it?
Well, no, it was just his honest face Who gave the true definition?
Sonny Jim again.
The Wellinger is what you put into a large barrel if you're a sort of vintner, and you draw it out and you put it in a glass and taste it. 2-1. Embred, I suppose it is. Derek Jacobi.
No, it's embreed.
Oh,
Embreed.
thank you.
It's an antique verb meaning to deck with blossom, to adorn with flowers, to garland with wreaths. It's not used very much nowadays, but it was in common usage in Elizabethan England. And there is one instance of it in Shakespeare, in a play that is not very often performed. It's one of his more bloody, more violent plays, Titus Andronicus. And I'm sure the actors among you, certainly being Shakespeare buffs, will remember the line, "The wreaths that would our brows nobly embreed shall with untimely haste upon our graves be soon o'ercast."
That's a black lie if ever I heard.
It was awfully noble, though. Prunella.
You were right in your pronunciation. It is embred. Now, this pronunciation will make it clear, I believe, to one and all that it is a baker's verb, meaning to convert into or to roll something into a roll or a loaf of bread.
We've had an awful lot of these.
Well, you never know, do you? Frank, it's your turn now.
You all know the old Elizabethan play, Titus and Eutychus. That was set in the island of Syria. Embryad is a scholarly name for the old Syrian alphabet, as now hold with me, written by chaps thousands and thousands of years ago, 19 characters or little hieroglyphs in it, but from it developed two of our present letters, N for nothing and P for persimmon, partridge, parsley. Anything beginning with a P.
I didn't understand a single word. Did I do
that
again?
Well, what he said...
It's a Syrian alphabet.
Syrian alphabet.
Syrian, yes.
Yeah. Syrian alphabet.
SYRIAN, ALF.
And the P we get from them...
It's the Syrian alphabet, he said, and it's to put something into bread, to embread it, and it's to deck with something, flowers, weeds, or anything like that. So, whose turn is it? Yes, Michael's, your turn.
I'm sorry, I'm going to need a little time here.
You're out on your own.
No, come on, back me up, gang. What?
We don't know at all.
No use. I mean, Derek, you know, it's not fair. It's really not fair to deck with garlands. It's very flowery, yeah? And that's flowery as well. Oh, dear, roll into bread and Syrian alphabet.
Ah, yes. That is what I said, yes.
I can't believe Syrian alphabet. I really can't believe that. The bread, I know it's the most prosaic, but I tend to go for the bread.
Yes.
I mean, you said the verse beautifully, Derek, but I really don't. No, I'm going for the bread.
You choose what
I'm going
dear
to bread.
Prunella said. To embread something is to put it into bread. True or bluff? You're right. I don't know how she has the nerve. Embread. Put it into bread. But that's what it means. It must mean that, I suppose, as well as anything else it might also have meant. Maxie at 3-1, and it's Nanette's turn.
Well, Maxie describes a certain condition in a cheese. It is, in fact, when the cheese hasn't reached its full maturity, and it then becomes Maxie, which is a rather nasty kind of greasy, slightly sweet state, which is very nasty for a cheese to be in. And it's when it hasn't reached the fermentation of the whey hasn't developed correctly. And the condition is described as Maxie.
Yeah.
Oh, well, very good.
Now, Patrick's turn.
Maxie was one of the many 18th century words for gin, also known as Mother's Ruin, Flash of Lightning, all that kind of thing. But there's a theory about Maxi. The gin was called Maxi because of the residence of a retired prize-fighter called Maxi Palmer, who was the landlord of a pothouse in Jermyn Street, of course not the present Jermyn Street, you see, 18th century Jermyn Street, whose gin was so good, so clear and pure, that high-quality gin became known as Maxi.
Could be, could be.
Possible.
Now it's Michael Culver's go.
Maxi is a Cornish slang word. I can't give you the Cornish pronunciation, I'm very sorry, but it's a Cornish slang word used by the tin miners, and it describes it describes a substance that they find at the bottom of tin mines.
Cheese.
Gin.
No, in fact, it's a sort of metallic substance, and it can be green or yellow or off-white. And
So can cheese.
Yeah, it's true. And if a good jeweller gets hold of it, he can make it into very good imitation jewellery. That is Maxi.
Right, so it's a sort of metal found at the bottom of Cornish tin mines, kind of splendid gin and kind of nasty cheese. So it's Prunella, your turn.
Oh, well, until I heard those two, I thought Nanette's was definitely not it. But, oh, God, less and less laugh. It went on. What did you... Sorry? Yes. Well, I come round to that again. I didn't think cheese went through a sweet stage before it reached fruition, but maybe it does. No, I certainly don't think it's the metal Maxi. No. It could be the gin, but I think... yes, I will go for the cheese.
The cheese, the nasty cheese that Nanette spoke of. True or bluff, Nanette? Oh, hard cheese, did I hear you say, Frank? Yes.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. My subconscious again. Who gave the true definition?
It's even harder than you think, the cheese, because there it is.
Ah, yes. It's the metal at the bottom of a Cornish tin mine, is Maxi. 4-1, and we have Sincanta. Prunella G will define it.
Oh, Sincanta, it was a medieval cure for insomnia. It was a sleeping draught that contained a few seeds of scarlet flax, which is a distant relative of the poppy, which, as we know, contains a natural chemical related to opium. Sorry, that wasn't very good. So, sleeping draught.
Right, Frank, your turn.
Sincanta is a huge bird in Persian folklore, and it's got an enormous wingspan, one feather of which can be used for rowing a boat, and it has the power of speech.
Derek Jacobi's turn.
Cinquanta is an adjective, a rather unkind and offensive adjective, thought to be of French origin, to describe a man who, alas for him, has passed the age of 50. Now, if you speak French, you will spot at once why it is called cinquanta, because the French word for 50 is cinquante.
There's something in that, I would allow.
Well, it's a sort of sleeping draught. It's a fabulous bird, and it's a word for any splendid creature who is over 50. So now, let's see who... It's Nanette, you must choose.
No. Well, of course, I naturally did spot that it was that, the French word for over 50.
Yes,
Naturally, we all fluently. The sleeping draught, which is related to the poppy seed and opium. Frank's was so awful that I kind of feel that it has to be that. The only thing that puts me off there, Paddy, is the thought of one feather rowing a boat. Is that at all possible? Help me, Paddy.
Yes, it
is. It? Do I have your backing
I don't know
on
if it's
this?
practically possible.
Well, it's so extraordinary, Frank, and I don't want you to lie to me. I shall have to assume that it's this gigantic Jaws-type bird.
I thought he'd just put that bit in about rowing the boat, but who knows? Frank, you did say it. True or bluff?
It's a bluff, isn't it?
Oh, really, Nanette?
Wasn't that pity, really, but it wasn't that. Who gave the true definition?
That took a bit of time to get out, didn't it?
Maybe you've
Means
got
a
it
chap.
wrong.
Means a chap who's over 50. Sincanter, as he said. 4-2, but you didn't believe him. Zizani is the next one, Patrick, isn't it?
Sleepy.
A zizania is a pernicious weed that smothers and stifles corn in the field. It's a very annoying weed, and it drove Bishop Evelyn in 1706 at such fury that he shouted at his parishioners, "Many holy and excellent persons God has dispersed as wheat among the tares and zizany." Next, please, he said.
But he gripped his audience, I bet you he did. Michael Culver's the next one, here he goes.
Well, if you travelled in the Middle East in the 17th century, you would often hear people say before you set out on your travels, beware of the zizany. Because the zizany were bands of robbers, mounted robbers. They were very difficult to catch and very dangerous, and they would harass travellers on the roads. I remember the road between Damascus and Baghdad was particularly bad.
Oh, yes.
There were bands of robbers.
Bad spot.
OK. Nanette, Newman's go.
Well, a zizany provides the background music in the Casbah in Algiers. It's an instrument not to be confused with the zither or anything like that, but rather similar, of a horizontal board with strings across it, and it's plucked by the thumbnail, and it produces a sort of wavering kind of note, not unlike an Indian sitar. Not unlike.
You've got a baby sitar here, haven't you?
Shall I remind you? Yes, well, you'd like me to remind you before we begin,
indeed,
wouldn't you?
yes, please.
Otherwise, not much for me to do, Frank. So it's a musical instrument, provides a muzak in the Casbah. It's a weed, and it's a band of fierce robbers. Frank, now.
Yeah. We're unanimous here. The musical instrument, we don't think it is. There are too many musical instruments that start ziz or relating to ziz. Paddy's, it's a pity there wasn't something on this programme which stifled corn, isn't it? And we have the Middle East robbers. No, we think it's Paddy's rubbish, his early century clergyman, because it's so clever of him to remembered part of the sermon. It is impressive, isn't it?
It did, yeah, I thought so at the time myself. Patrick, was that true or bluff, all that stuff?
What do you reckon, Paddy?
That's all right, you're all right. You're all right.
Yes, zizany is a sort of weed that stifles corn, and we try and get it to grow over this programme one of these days, you never know. 4-3, slork is the next one, and it's Frank to define it.
Despite my connections with St Andrews, I don't play golf. But slork is an old golfing term, therefore it must have been used at St Andrews, the home of golf. It's a very bad lie, is a slark, and if the ball goes ka-tung off the grass and into a bird's nest, or down a mole hole, or even in a spectator's turnip, and has to be taken out and you lose a point and put on the ground, that's a slark.
So that's what it is. Let's see what Derek Jacobi says.
Well, if you came across some slork and picked it up, the first thing you would notice is that it's very slimy.
No.
It is, in fact, a very stringy variety of waterweed, prevalent in Northumbria, and it proliferates round the bottom and up drain pipes and covers ships' bottoms. If you could manage to scrape some off the bottom of the ship, be careful not to get it on your clothes, put it in some newspaper and take it home and boil it, you could eat it. I've not eaten it myself, so I can't tell you what it tastes like, but I am assured that if the food crisis gets any worse, we could all live on boiled slork.
Slimy slork.
They have to have access to the right sort of ship, though, and clothes and so on. Prunella.
Well, anyone who's ever tried their hand at stoking an industrial furnace will know immediately what a slork is. A slork is a long, pointed poker for which you'd use for poking away the clinker that's got stuck to the fire bars and things, which are causing inefficient combustion.
Terribly technical. Very technical stuff. It's waterweed on the bottom of a ship or elsewhere, and it's an unplayable lie for a golf ball. You pick it up and drop it somewhere else. And it's that special sort of poker that gets rid of the clinker in those circumstances. Patrick's choice.
We've got 4 different opinions here already. No. He doesn't know either. And neither do I.
Plunge.
It certainly isn't a poker because Prunella doesn't know anything about boilers. I don't either. No less than she does. It is an unplayable lie, certainly.
Rather swiftly, Patrick.
Busy. It's an unplayable lie.
The unplayable lie. Was he telling an unplayable lie? True or bluff?
It's a lie, all right.
Oh, he was. Who gave the true definition? Yes, we must have it before we end. Yes. Yes, that's what it means. It's waterweed. All that stuff about grey on the bottom of the ship was perfectly true. I say for all. They'll be dancing in the hostility room tonight. So, no one's the winner, so I should suggest you clap both sides. How's that? I'm perfectly certain we'll take another trip to the gaslit end of the Oxford English Dictionary next time. So, until then, goodbye from Michael Culver, Derek Jacobi, goodbye, Nanette Newman, Prunella G, Patrick Campbell, Frank Muir, good night, and goodbye. Hello again. Call my bluff, where the suave devil selling 3-bob notes is Frank Muir.
Good evening, good evening. Both my guests this week are regulars to the programme, and the first is a gem of an actress. Literally, in fact, because she's Sapphire in the new series, Sapphire and Steel. It's Joanna Lumley. My other guest, I bring you a piece of instant sunshine. 25% of instant sunshine, in fact, and also literary editor of Punch, Miles Kington.
And the old Mother Riley of the panel game, Patrick Campbell.
You're done with that.
It's a very unfair start. I don't know. I haven't said good evening yet. Good evening. My first guest is another flame-haired beauty, not another flame-haired beauty, a flame-haired beauty, such as myself used to be. It could only be from Rock Follies a long time ago, but still alive. Rula Lenska. And my other guest is not only a superb sports writer, but he's also a funny sports writer, Ian Wooldridge.
I ring this, and a word descends like that. Budmash is the word, and you probably recall that what happens now is that Frank Muir and his team define budmash, pronounce it as they will, 3 different ways. 2 of them are bogus, one's okay, and that's the one that Patrick and co try and pick out. So off you go with budmash, Frank.
Budmash is humdrum stuff, boring even. And the way I do the definition will do nothing to alleviate the... Budmash is a dreary kind of stuff that they used to put on the floors in America to sort of keep out drafts and to lag pipes. It's kind of duty course matting, imported from the Philippines.
What a thrilling story.
I did warn you.
Let's see what Miles Kington says.
Well, I've often wondered what English criminals put in their passport when they have to fill in the space marked occupation. If you're a burglar, I suppose you could put removal expert, blackmailer, man of letters. But it's a difficult thing. In the Middle East, it's much easier because there's a word that covers all this, budmash. If you're a burglar from Baghdad or a shoplifter from Syria, you can put in your passport without hesitation budmash, which means a member of the Middle Eastern, rather, criminal classes. You'd be ill-advised to do so, but you could if you wanted.
Good
I thought you were going to say the criminal middle class. Which would have been rather nice. Joanna Lumley, your turn.
If your horse has gone off his fodder and is peering at you glumly over the door of his loose box, the thing to do is to tempt him with a budmash. A budmash is an equine aperitif, something to tempt his palate. It's made up of chopped brown sugar, chopped brown bread, chopped apples and carrots. And it perks him up a bit.
OK. So they say it's a coarse sort of stuff. It's a tonic for a horse, tempt his palate, that kind of thing. And Middle Eastern criminal. Patrick.
Yes. It's a well-known fact that horses will eat anything, including jockeys, without an aperitif. Their eyes are too far apart, they can't see where they're going to. They're fools, all horses. Well, I take that back, I better quickly. That's nonsense, but it sounds too inviting. A pint of budmash, not... Or is it? Wait a minute.
Do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to tell you?
Well, in a minute. What about Philippine matting? A Middle Eastern burglar. I think it's a Middle Eastern...
Go on.
A pseudonym for burglary.
You do you?
I do, really.
Well, it was Miles Kington who said that. He'll tell you now. True or bluff? You got it. Budmash is a Middle Eastern criminal. And the next one is via. Oh, it'll be pronounced umpteen different ways, I dare say. Patrick.
Via! Via!
Here.
It's the same type of word which you shout at a cart horse. Via! Via! Or at huskies. Mush, not mush, that's the same altogether. Mush, mush. But in fact, large gentlemen on bicycles with very small schoolboys' hats on their heads shout, Via! Via! To oars. I mean, oarsmen. Men in boats with oars. Aints.
Rowers?
Coaches on riverbanks shout, Via! Via!
What for?
To encourage the oarsmen to get on with it.
Why don't they say
To get the head-
row faster?
Shorter is Via.
Not short for come over here.
Yeah, that was nice, Frank, too.
That makes
yes.
sense of it.
Yes. Well, let's try Ian Wooldridge now. What does he say?
Via, very simple. It's just a piece of cloth, a piece of linen, which crazy old bishops, for no reason at all, tie on the end of a crozier. In fact, the only possible reason is a piece of symbolism, because back in the Old Testament, the shepherds all used to go around mopping their brow with a piece of cloth, mostly in overtime. And this was a veer, and it's now been adopted by the bishops. A veer.
OK. Now, Rula Lenska.
Via is pronounced via. It's a gentle breeze that blows along the coast of Venezuela. And it's also morbidly called the undertaker's wind, because for some extraordinary reason the death rate seems to rise when this wind is blowing.
It's a breeze, you say, in Venezuela. It's saying G up to oarsmen, and it's a little something tied on the end of a crozier, presumably to remind the bishop of something or other. Frank, your turn.
Yes. Classic Bluff is a breeze off the Dodecanese or strong wind off the Cape of Good Hope. So I'm not going to go for that one.
It might be true.
Might well. The veer, or chap on a bicycle shouting veer just before crashing into the tree. Piece of linen used for mopping sheep's foreheads in the Old Testament. I think it's Paddy and this fool cycling along the towpath.
So
could it be?
Yeah, you said it was encouraging noises made to oarsmen. Patrick, true or bluff?
How lovely.
Really, all that is perfectly true. It's an encouraging noise when you're trying to encourage an oarsman. Bargenet is the next word. Miles?
Bargenet is a pork butcher's term for the very fatty tissue which surrounds the kidneys of a pig. When you go into a really good butcher's and ask for kidneys, they don't produce kidneys. They produce this thing that looks like a misshapen snowball. And they delve into it like a butcher unwrapping his Christmas present. And there it is, pig's kidneys for the butcher. Well, for you, if you've got the money for it. And there is no known use for this stuff, except...
You could throw the butcher.
You finished? You don't want to say anymore. No, I see you.
No, I think...
You came to a
end with a snigger, that's how I...
distinct stop. Joanna, your turn.
A barganet is a jolly rustic knees-up. You're looking forward to this accent, aren't you? A jolly rustic knees-up between ploughmen and milkmaids. They throw themselves into dancing and prancing round the meadows. They're loving it too. To a sort of ordinary musical accompaniment. And it won't shock you to hear that the origins of this word were in fact French. Barganet.
Barganet, she said it is. Frank, yeah.
Bargenet. Flat cap. As worn by Andy Cap, or affected by certain shop stewards when interviewed on television. A bargenet has two essential differences from a flat cap. A, worn in the last century, and B, most important, had ear flaps tied under the chin. Thank you.
Right, so it's a kind of rustic dance. It's a 19th century flat cap, and it's the fat round a pig's kidney. Ian Wooldridge.
Well, the sincerity... I think the sincerity was blazing there from Miles Kington. I think that's totally untrue. Joanna, I couldn't understand a word of it and thought she was auditioning for something which you may well be.
Cool.
And Frank, a flat cap and certain class prejudices which may or may not have gone down well. But I think after consultation with the skipper here...
No, don't blame it on me.
I think the audition perhaps was the right one, Joanna.
Yes. The question is, did she get the part? However, now, true or bluff, Joanna? You did say it was all this rustic thingy. And you're right!
Steady team.
I do not vouch for the accent, but what the accent said was true enough. It's a rustic dance. Empusa is the next one. Ian Wooldridge.
Well, Empusa, if you've seen people, or every time you go and talk to someone and they're mumbling, or you've got continually to go to the television set or the radio set and turn it up, that's an Empusa you're suffering from, because it's a blockage in the ear. It's a little sort of tied up ball of cartilage which sticks in your ear, and if it grows, you're in dead trouble because you're deaf. That's an Empusa.
Really definitely have two of them.
No, just one. You only get it in one ear.
Let us see what Rula has to say.
An Empusa is a midget ghost, summoned up by Hecate, who is, as you know, a well-known magician. And it used to take the form of a transparent hobgoblin which used to haunt crossroads.
How do you know if it was transparent?
He's get on with it. He's doing fine.
That's it.
Patrick next. Here he comes.
Empusa is a confectioner's name. It's old-fashioned, you understand. For pale pink powder with which to make boiled sweets more appetizing, kind of mid-Victorian time. But how do you get your Empusa? You take a bunch of rhubarb left over from perhaps sales or something. When you dry the rhubarb, pound it, add a little water, and you used to get it, because it's now made of plastic, you get this rather enticing pale pink liquid in which you dipped your candies and sweets and that kind of thing.
Poor
It came out
kids.
all lovely.
So it's sort of pounded, you said, yes, rhubarb, sort of, and you put it on sweets. It's a swollen cartilage in the ear, and it's a tiny ghost that haunted crossroads. Kept it off the street corners, I suppose. Miles, your choice.
Severe disagreement on this side of the floor.
That's
yeah.
unusual.
No, you lose it. It's your go.
I wish this was football, where you could hobble off and send somebody else on. We don't like the transparent hobgoblin. We think it would be very difficult to see a transparent ghost. Especially a midget transparent ghost. Especially on crossroads.
Twice weekly.
So that comes down to the cartilage in the ear, only one ear, presumably the ear you listen to television with, or the sweet rhubarb pink powder. Well, against all my instincts, I'm going to go for Patrick Campbell, and against all instincts, he's going to prove me right, is he?
Well, who knows? He certainly said it was powdered rhubarb that you douse sweets in. True or bluff? No, nothing to do with powdered rhubarb. Who gave the true definition of Empusa? She did.
It's invisible
Tiny ghosts on the crossroads, and that's what an Empusa was, or no doubt is. Diddler's the next one. Joanna, you define it.
A diddler is a term in the ancient game of shove halfpenny. Patrick, do you remember?
I know all about it.
Shove halfpenny. Well, you could call it shove 2p.
You
to bring it
shove
up to
2p.
date. But a diddler is a shot in shove halfpenny which is aimed to knock a halfpenny which is already safely in a bed. No, a halfpenny which is not in a bed into a bed, but instead of doing so, it knocks a halfpenny which is already safely in a bed out of the bed.
Pardon?
That shot is called a diddler. Do you see? It's a shot which fails.
Yeah, I understood, yeah. Well, some part I understood, yeah.
So, I'm Frank Muir.
A diddler is somebody who spends his whole working day diddling with a diddle.
Is it legal?
Totally legal. And really quite hard work. Do you want any more information? Or
I think you better tell us.
Let's spit it out a bit.
Yeah, you know.
Obfuscate the issue.
What do they do with it, I mean, you know?
Oh, well, a diddle is, in some parts of the country, is is a triangular spade with sharp edges and a very, very long handle, and they clear choked weeds and undergrowth out of ditches. Didle. I'm going didling today. Diddly-eye, die, diddly. Didler, everybody knows that.
Yes. What does Miles Kington tell us?
And his diddler's 3. I'm sure there's not a clue there at all. No, in fact, a diddler is it's a non-conformist pigeon. Not in any religious meaning of the word, but in pigeon fancier's language, a diddler is a pigeon which has no homing instinct, which, from their point of view, is a bad pigeon, because when you set it free in a strange place, it immediately flies to somewhere it's never been before, and is thus difficult to recover. For some reason, pigeons with white bars on their tails make the most apt diddlers, but no one has ever found the reason for this at all.
Well, it's a bad shot, evidently a bad shot at shove halfpenny. It's a triangular spade with which you dig weeds out of ditches and the like, and it's an unhoming pigeon. So, Rula, Lenska, your turn to choose.
Well, I like the idea of the shove halfpenny, but I don't somehow think that that would be called a diddler. The triangular spade. Could be.
Looking impassive.
Diddler. You called it a didler, didn't you?
Didler?
Yes,
Arr.
didler.
Didler.
And Miles's funny little pigeon that never goes home.
They migrate by accident.
They just diddle about. Yes, I think I'll go for the pigeon.
Go for the pigeon, Miles, to your Bluff.
Home or away?
Thank you. Nothing to do with pigeons, who gave the true definition of this word. Diddler, didler, call it what you will.
I didle all day.
It's a triangular spade you dig things out with. And fifth is our next word. Rula, your turn.
Fifth is an old theatrical cant word for prompt. Thus, if you got to the middle of your Hamlet soliloquy and you got stuck after to be or not to be, you said out of the prompt side of your mouth, quick, give us a fifth.
You just might. Patrick.
Fifth is a vaguely, but only vaguely, onomatopoeic word meaning to play on pipes. For instance, the well-known little figure of Peter Pan. He's been fiffy away for years at nannies and children, some irresponsible dogs, but he's fiffy away like mad.
That's it. Good. Well, or bad, as the case may be. Ian, your turn.
Fifth, and I dispute the spelling, I think that's wrong, is in fact...
That's a jolly good move. We've not had that before. That's new ground being broken.
In fact, it's a Victorian... Well, most people know this one. It's a Victorian firework. And it's another ball. It's not the cartridges this time. It's a ball of saltpetre, which was filled with iron filings. And at Christmas, the Victorians used to whack them in the fire for fireworks. And they'd go bang. That's why it's called fifth.
It's like a hand grenade.
Yes.
It wouldn't go bang.
Well, it's an indoor firework. It's a prompt on the stage, and it's to play on panpipes, I think Patrick said. Joanna, your choice.
I'm getting the old cold shoulder again. Ian, I think if a firework went off, it would go bang, and if it didn't go off, it would go fifth. So I'm going away from the firework. Paddy, I think a fifth with my musket, fife and drum, fife. Quite possible.
Thank you.
And as for Rula's going fiff out of the corner of your mouth when you tried, it's such rubbish that I should like Rula's fiff. Prompt.
You're
Rula.
choosing that one, are
That's
you?
the one I'd
right,
like to
let's
choose.
see if you chose well. Rula, Lenska, true or bluff? Oh, no. No, nothing to do with that. We have to know the true definition now. We must.
Little Peter Pan.
There it is. It evidently means playing around on pan pipes, fiffing. And now we have, I don't know, Procello, I might say. Frank, your turn.
Have you ever wondered how you get the, in a bottle, how you get the bottleneck of a bottle? Well, dip your glass blower's tube into the glass.
Oh, that's great.
Turn it until you blow it. Roll the edge of the tube along the sort of metal thing, and grabbing a pair of Procelli, or a Procello, which is the kind of tongs with long, because glass is hot, with a kind of finger bit on the end, you roll the end of your molten glass in between these tongs, and it makes the bottleneck. Procello.
Jolly good bit of miming then, yes. Miles's turn.
Well, formal banquets or dinners are divided into two parts. The first part is the eating, which is chicken soup, roast lamb, fruit salad, everywhere in England. And the second half is the after-dinner speeches, which is the part people are looking forward to. But you sometimes get the problem that an after-dinner speaker may be very bad, but has to speak because he's the most important person around. And that is where the Procello comes in, because it's a before-dinner speech, a short one of greeting to the guests. And you shove him on, and he makes the short Procello, and the worst that can happen is that the soup can go cold.
They're far worse than that, sure.
Now, Joanna Lumley.
In academic terms, a Procello is a King's Scholar at Eton College, which you could call the Windsor Comprehensive. King Henry VI founded the college in 1441, and so the charter of the school was written in Latin, which is why, for the purists, I'm pronouncing it Procello. Although, you know, the more slovenly Italian readers later on would probably call it Procello, but in fact it's Procello.
That's saying it, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that was not even
It's a King's Scholar at Eton. It's a glass blower's pincers, and it's a speech of welcome before the meal begins. Patrick to choose.
I'm in torment here. I spent many years of my life under pressure, watching jugs and mugs being blown in the Verrerie Abiot. I'm sure they all had Procellos, or did they?
Yes, they did.
I can't remember. Christ, it couldn't be. Oh, it couldn't be called a King's Scholar. Procello. It's a load of nonsense. I believe it to be, with all heart and sincerity, and no mind, it must be a machine made for making bottles, molten glass bottles. It might be.
You're choosing that one, the glass blower's thingo.
Yes.
Right, that was Frank. True or bluff, Frank?
I didn't say it was.
A Procello is a glass blower's pincer used for pinching the end of bottles and other such things, objects. Hilsa is the next one. 5-2. Ah, yes. Patrick, your turn.
A Hilsa used to be the household personal guard for Danish sovereigns.
Pounds?
It's quite possible. I haven't finished, you see. It's quite possible that King Canute had his Hilsa all around him while he was getting his socks wet at Southampton. It shows how much they knew about anything. Except to drag him away, let him get his socks wet, didn't they?
What's that got to do with it?
The whole Hilsa.
What was the Hilsa?
So,
What
now,
did the gentleman say?
Ian Wooldridge.
Well, wherever you go in the upper Ganges and you see the notices frying tonight, you'll be having a Hilsa. Because a Hilsa is a revolting, silvery-looking fish, which, in fact, when tasted, is not bad. It's sort of halfway between a salmon and a mackerel. Hilsa tonight. Hilsa.
Okay. And now it's Rula Lenska's turn.
The Hilsa, with the capital H, is a branch of the Manx government, which is in charge of making non-political decisions about parliamentary procedures.
Okay, then there you say sounds right. Kind of a fish, kind of a Danish bodyguard. You might have thought it was a sock, he got carried away there. And it's a part of the Manx Parliament, sort of committee, that kind of thing. Frank, your choice.
He thinks it's the Hilsa alive with the sound of music. What the help he is at this stage of the game.
He's a great help to you, and this word.
If we can crack that, we'll crack anything.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I don't
know. You reckon so, do you?
If you hurry up and get another chance,
I don't not at all anxious for another chance. The way things
Where
are
you
going.
stand, well.
Danish king's sock. Indian cross between a mackerel and a salmon, or a parliamentarian without a tail. Oh dear. I don't think it's the Danish king's sock or the Manx government. I think it's the Indian fish. I don't really, but I've got to say something.
The Indian fish. Now that was Ian Wooldridge. We all well remember. Was he teasing or was it true? True or bluff?
Oh.
It's true. That's just for fun. Just for fun. You've got almost no time at all. But at 3-5, let's start with this word, stoof. Miles, just about 3 words.
Stoof is a stuffy place, rather sweaty place. It's an old name for a do-it-yourself steam bath.
Joanna?
It's an uncooperative Australian person.
Oh, is it? And Frank?
High-class silk made by high-class Indian silkworms.
So it's silk. It's a sort of uncooperative Australian, and it's kind of steam bath. Ian, we must choose instantly.
Well, I'm not sure. I think I've got to go, if it's that quick, for Joanna.
You...
Quick!
It's Joanna.
Joanna said it was an uncooperative Australian, true or bluff. Here she goes. Good. I want the true definition now. There it is. Steam bath.
One more, please.
Now he wants it, but he can't have it. I'm drawing stumps. It's all over.
We'll pay for
5-4. Patrick and Curve 1. Another trip to the boneyard of the English language next time. Until then, goodbye from Miles Kington, Ian Wooldridge, Joanna Lumley, Rula Lenska, Frank Muir, goodbye, Patrick Campbell, and goodbye. Hello again, this is Call My Bluff, featuring the First Lord of the Irish Navy, Patrick Campbell.
And I could say, falling and rocking, back again, at the winning side, is Rula Lenska. And the world's greatest sports writer, and his nostrils flary for another battle because we won last week, didn't we? Ian Wooldridge.
And the rector of Stiff Key, Frank Muir.
Thank you, and I return, of course, with our semi-successful team of last week. On my right, the ever-lovely Joanna Lumley. And on my left, the effervescent Miles Kington.
Try and get a word. It's usually successful. You ring that bell. Hymation, or hymation. Hymation, I suspect. Patrick's team will define hymation 3 different ways. 2 of them are false, 1 is true, and that's the one that Frank and his team try and choose. So off you go, Patrick, with this word hymation.
It is indeed pronounced hymation. It's a silent and gentle metamorphosis. It's happening to all of us, including the audience, as we all sit here. We're all going through hymation, which in the old medical textbooks meant the gradual growing of finger and toenails.
I thought you were going to say sedation.
So that's what he says. Now what does Ian Wooldridge give us?
Well, I would say if you are accustomed to reading the sports pages and you know about a footballer who scores a goal, he then walks 10 feet tall. Well, that is hymation. And naturally it comes from the Latin, as classical scholars will know, hymatus, which is a stilt, something you walk along and off the ground, and it keeps you, 4 or 5 or even 9, 10 feet off the ground. So therefore, hymation is the actual action or process of walking by a stilt.
Righto. Rula, Lenska's go.
Hymation should in fact be pronounced himation, because it comes from the Greek, and it is in fact an ancient Greek outer garment, taking the form of a sort of rather long and wide shawl, which was nonchalantly flung over the left shoulder and fastened under the right armpit.
Not just thrown away. Back again. Good.
So this is what they say it is. They say it's walking on stilts. It's the... I thought I was going to say the noise of your toenails growing. It isn't the noise, it's just your toenails growing. And it's a Greek garment. Frank Muir.
I was immensely puzzled by Ian's 9-foot-tall footballers. How would they'd have nobody to kiss if they scored a goal without bending down alarmingly, walking on stilts, which would be extremely difficult to score a goal. What do you say? Hang on.
Rugby, though, because you could get up to by those tall cyclists.
Yes,
In a
right.
minute, it's your turn.
Growing of finger... I'll never talk to you again if you're wrong. Growing of fingernails and toenails is complete rubbish, Paddy. I think you should be ashamed of yourself for talking that kind of nonsense on a show like this and wasting the viewers' time. So therefore... No, it's not a Grecian shawl, it's Paddy's fingernail growing.
You think it is?
I don't know.
You're diving in... Well, you just think it might be. It was Patrick who said it was the fingernails and toenails
This is
growing.
an odd bluff.
True or bluff?
What a tragedy.
There may be a word for that, but it isn't that one. Who gave the true definition?
It's this shawl.
Yes, indeed it is. It's a Greek garment. Every detail of what that young woman said was true. Plock is the next one. Frank Muir defines it.
Plots?
All I can say is that both my team got the last one right. What's the word? Plock. Ah, yes. Our language is rich in words which describe. The very word itself describes in a semi-onomatopoeical way the noise an animal makes. A duck. You say, what noise does a duck make? It goes quack, does it not? A cow goes moo. Words all by themselves. A crow caws, rook caws. But, you say, suppose you startle... What? I was trying to remember. Oh, yes. I suppose you startle a jack snipe.
A what?
A jack snipe. A snipe. It goes plop. I think there's enough of that, really.
I enjoyed it very much. Miles, your turn.
Plock, delving into political economy for a moment, was a tax levied in certain Baltic states during the 19th century. Late 19th century. It was a tax, in fact, levied on any object made out of wood or timber and exported from Lithuania, Estonia, or Latvia, which must have hit boat builders very hard, I should think. But you don't hear much about Plock these days, which is probably explained by the fact you don't hear much about Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia these days. All gone. A fascinating glimpse into the bygone history of the Baltic states there.
I think, Joanna, you better start now.
Plock is a gluey substance which was once spread on bottoms, which was spread on ships' bottoms to delay corrosion and to stop beastly old barnacles and woodworm and things setting in. Quite easy to make. You added to a barrel of boiling tar an armful of chopped horsehair. Threw it together and spread it on the bottom of the ship.
Right. So it's a tax in the Baltic. It's sort of under seal for a ship, and it's the noise a jack snipe makes. Patrick, your choice.
I thought we might have to wait forever for Frank to go through the whole zoo, including the birds and the reptiles, many of whom are silent, admittedly. It isn't a jack snipe. It doesn't make a sound. It makes no sound at all, a jack snipe, or even a lady snipe. Chopped up horsehair on bottoms, tax on timber. You some Plock on your tax timber. Well, in all conscience, it's got to be chopped up horsehair on ship's bottom.
In all conscience, were you telling the truth, Joanna? Because it was you.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, you were.
I knew it wasn't the Baltic thing.
That did sound the most unlikely one, I have to say.
You've gone off this game.
Pollen is the next one, and Ian Wooldridge defines the word.
This is, it's pretty well known to anyone who understands the British Raj, or just before, predating Gandhi, even Mountbatten, polo and cricket in India. Pollen was a word for a large parcel of land, a kind of estate, but it was slightly different because it was ruled by a ferocious leader who protected it fiercely. So it's a piece of land in southern India, a pollen.
Right, now, Rula, your turn.
If you asked a Victorian farmer from Essex, that's presuming you could find one, what sort of wheat he recommended for his particular soil, he would say pollen, because pollen is a sort of bearded wheat which seems to thrive particularly well on the brick red soil of Essex.
OK, and now it's Patrick's turn.
The pollen is a small area of hair towards the back of the head. In medieval, not many medieval times, in medieval times, many a mummy watched her baby's pollens with care and anxiety, nay, concern, because if baby's pollen grew counterclockwise, it meant that baby had been marked by the devil.
So
what are you laughing at anyway?
It used to be an Indian estate, a large one, wheat grown in Essex, and a little spot of hair on the back of a baby's head that had to grow one way rather than another. Miles, your choice.
We're just studying the back of Frank Muir's head.
A bit desperate here, you know. Don't rush us.
He hasn't got one.
Well, I'm going to play for time while my...
No. You do it.
Judges will hold up numbers later.
You
all right, well...
Recriminations afterwards.
I was a bit confused when Ian referred to a bit of Indian land ruled by a fierce ruler, because I thought he was referring to another member of the team. A fierce ruler said it was bearded wheat. Bearded wheat. Small area of hair counterclockwise. Mm-hmm. I don't think there were enough clocks in medieval times for anyone to worry about which way they went round. They had... I'm going for Rula's definition, the bearded wheat. I like
The bearded wheat of Essex, she said, didn't she? Rula, true or bluff? Oh, no. No. Nothing to do with that.
My second choice is...
That's never been tried before, Miles.
It's never been tried. No, that's very good. And no one's ever given up, have they? I mean, now, who gave the true definition? Let's have it.
You're bound to get it right in the end.
There it is. It was the large Indian estate.
That was my third choice.
Floor is the next one. Miles Kington defines it.
Oh, this is a very simple, boring one. It's something that makes it very dangerous to go sailing on or around Michaelmas, which wouldn't be much use to me personally, because I haven't got a boat and I can never remember when Michaelmas is. But if I had, I now know that it would be on or around September the 29th, because that is when you're liable to get a floor, which is a sudden squall which builds up in the sea very suddenly, so suddenly that you don't have time to get your spinnaker down, it splits in two, you're in big trouble. Here comes a floor.
Right. So, Joanna Lumley.
Floor is a sort of secret word used amongst the more disreputable members of the antique dealing trade. I mean, it's used to describe one of these people, because what they do is they get absolutely non-antique furniture, and by the use of stains and making little weevil holes and whacking it about with chains and generally making it look a lot older than it is, they make it look a lot older than it is. And then it looks like an antique and they sell it for more money.
Frank, your turn.
A flare is a North Country publican's name for what is otherwise called a bung starter. It's a chisel-shaped piece of metal which is hit with a wooden hammer against the bung on a barrel, which loosens it so that the air can get in and allow the spigot to draw off the beer. Nowadays, of course, the metal dustbins beer comes in, and they have metal bungs, so you might well ask, where have all the flares gone? But I wouldn't if I were you.
So it's a sudden squall. It is one who fakes wormholes and the like in furniture that isn't old to make it look old. And it's a tool for loosening the bung of a barrel. Ian Wooldridge, to choose.
Yes.
It's very tricky.
It can be all your fault.
It's not bad,
yes. It's not bad. But to look at Miles there, he clearly knows nothing about sailing at all. And all that rubbish about spinnakers. I would think I rule that out immediately.
Very wise.
Joanna, she obviously knows a great deal about the ring and the knock, which is all in the antique business, I think, of doing odd things. But faking, I think that word is just too close to being too obvious for faking. So with the skipper's permission, I'm going to go...
You shocked me.
Frank, because the trail there was so sort of florid and long, then I think that's perhaps the answer. So I think a flora has got something to do with bungs.
He said it was a little implement you bang them with, Frank, you old tease. True or bluff?
Trouble with a late round, usually late round.
No, not that. No, that was all made up. Who gave the true definition? There. He's got it. Yes. Sudden squall, rather dangerous, it seems. 3-1. We get another word, drowsen, and it's Rula, Lenska.
Well, drowsen is a Cumberland adjective that describes a particular state of the weather. And they use it for when the weather is humid and airless and very nasty and heavy, like preceding a very heavy thunderstorm.
OK. Patrick's go now.
Drowsen was an alcoholic porridge.
Tell me more.
Very, very popular in the inns and taverns of the West Country. You might like to know how you made your drowsen. You took a huge lump of oatmeal, and you found a barrel of beer which was almost empty. It had some dregs left on the bottom of it. You pour this over your oatmeal, boil gently to taste, and munch it.
Either that or rub it in. Ian.
Well, a drowsen explains why oysters now cost about 40 or 50 pounds a dozen, because it's a fishing net which goes very deep down, but it's got a special grappling device on the bottom which grapples along the rocks and grapples the oysters off and puts them in this net. And this is a very, very expensive process. That's why they're so expensive, but that's what a drowsen is. It's a fishing net for oysters, or an oyster net.
They say it's these three things. Humid weather in Cumberland or thereabouts, a very expensive sort of net for oysters, or rather the oysters are expensive, and it's beer and oatmeal that you eat. Joanna.
Being English...
Oh.
No, the word being English, it sounds so nice. A drowsen weather, a drowsen day, muggy, everybody feeling drowsen. Drowsen off. Don't like it, Rula. Not that. The oyster net, I can't imagine a net which goes over the rocks and is so comprehensively clever. And I also don't like your expression at the moment. Paddy, yes, I'm afraid we're now going to agree. I think I've got my team on my side here. It is tipsy porridge. It is mulched beer and oats.
Beer and oatmeal, all mixed, boil it up. That's what Patrick said. True or bluff?
Well done, darling.
Oh. Yes! You're back in the game now, Frank.
Make
Here
a
we
fight
go.
of it, Paddy.
Snoff. The next one. Interesting word. Joanna, your turn.
Snoff is a fuse made of twisted brown paper, and it's used in the Cornish tin mines. What you do is you twist up your snoff, put a light to it, pop it in its little thing or wherever you generally pop fuses, and rush behind the nearest builder and put your fingers in your ears. And bang. And that's what it is. It's a little twist of brown paper, probably impregnated with something.
Something?
Well, you
Yes.
With drowsing.
Well, fairly technical that. Now, Frank Muir has a go.
Snoff is a generic term, country, not town, for old dried reeds, grasses, that kind of thing, which is kept really very dry. And then they were strewn around on the floors of the cheese room or the dairy or anywhere, because they kept the place dry. They were essentially dry, and they mopped up any moisture, or supposed to, that was hanging around. It was a very sort of easy, cheap, primitive floor covering.
Right, so now, Miles?
Snuff of that.
Put that in your pipe and snuff it.
A snuff is actually old thieves' slang, dating back to the old days of crime. Not so old back to highwaymen, but Victorian days, when teams of thieves went out in three, and they had specially divided functions. One man went in the house to get the swag, and he was called a scuffer. The second man stood outside the window with a bag, ready to receive the stuff as it was pushed through the window, and he was called a snoff. There was a third man, even further away, just waiting to see if anyone came along, and he was called a looker. I suppose nowadays there'd be a fourth man to look after the nylon tights they all wore, choose the right colour and mend the ladders, that sort of thing. But in those days, just the scuffer, the snoff, and the looker.
So it was rather rough stuff, made out of grass, cover the dairy or somewhere like that, the floor of it, I mean. It was a thief, sort of a thief, and a fuse in mining. Rula, your turn.
I loved your little twisted fuse, but there was a playful glint in your eyes all the way through that, and I don't think it's right. Quite tempted by Frank's reeds and rushes, old-fashioned matting on the floor.
Yield to temptation.
But I think I'm going to plump.
Oh, goody, a plump at last.
Snoff meaning one of the thieves who waited around for the Lute.
Well, that was Miles, wasn't it? Yes, you said that. True enough.
Show it quickly before you change your mind.
No. Who gave the true definition? That was wrongly plumped for.
Oh, no.
Yes. The playful glint showed all, because it was indeed that little twisted feud. 3-all, how interesting the game now becomes. Grouse or gruse is the next one. Patrick Campbell defines it.
Grouse is a verb which it means to eat with a loud crunching noise.
Go.
You might be grousing away, you see, on an apple, sticky celery. Not a banana, you wouldn't get any resonance out of a banana. But if you stick the walnut into the banana, you get a lovely grousing. The best thing that people used to do when they were grousing on a walnut, or a piece of celery, or an apple, they would place their mirrors over the cake hole in order to hush the din. I know it was. They used to stop grousing and say, "Play up, band."
When was this? Recently?
Oh no, many years ago.
Pre-crisp days.
Oh, pre-Christmas at least.
Thank you.
Let us now see what Ian Wooldridge has to tell us.
Well, the pronunciation is grooves, and like booze, it's a Fleet Street term, because it's really allied to the printing trade and bookbinding trade, because grooves was the homemade paste with which they used to put the gilt lettering on those beautiful leather books, and it's made of egg white and Arabic and a few things like that. Grooves.
Okay. Now we have Rula Lenska.
You might find some grouse on your local church tower, if you have one, because it's a sort of greenish mould that forms on soft metals.
Edible?
I don't know, I've never tried. On zinc and especially sheeting metal, which towers of old churches are made of.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's what they say it is. It's crunching things up in your mouth, making a noise, crunching them. Green mould on churches particularly, and it's a bookbinder's paste for putting the gilt on the back of the books. So Frank's choice.
Yes, it is. Right, here, yes. We've had a little conference, so we need to go through that again. Gilt lettering is put on leather with a hot iron. Not grease. Greenish mould is called verdigris, isn't it? Grooves. I have difficulty, actually. I'm rather an audible eater, even with my mouth closed for some reason. I think it comes out of my ears or something. But I'm hoping it's to eat loudly, because it's such a nice word for it.
That's the one you choose?
Yes, thank you. Yes, please, Mr. Robinson.
Good, right. Patrick, tell him.
It's an agony, isn't it?
Yes.
Well...
Coming back very strongly there, Frank. This is really very interesting. It is. It does indeed